Gulf Travel Show presents an exclusive interview with Amadeus Leadership.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, friends. I don't know which part of the world you're sitting in at the moment and at what time will you be seeing this particular interview. But it's a welcome and it's a pleasure to have you all here today, and especially all of you to join us in the Gulf Travel Show. And I'm hoping that this particular interviews and these webinars will give you some great insight into what's happening in this world. Before I start, I wanted to basically share something with you. You know, this pandemic has hit all of us really badly. In fact, more than anything else, I think the travel industry is down on its knees. And in fact, today only we got to hear from Pata that over 700 million travelers have not traveled. 700. And in Asia, especially in the Middle East and Asia part of it, the job losses are as high as about 40% people who have lost their jobs. So that's a huge thing. But the question now is that where do we go from here? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? We all are trying to look at a crystal balls and try to finalize what's going to happen. So the best thing for us to do is to actually go to what I call as the sharpest minds in the business and ask those people what it is and what is it going to be like. So I have great pleasure in today welcoming none other than Jamal Chandol, the Senior Vice President Retail, Middle East and Africa at Amadeus. Jamal joined Amadeus in 2011 as head of global sales for Amadeus Rail, bringing a strong distribution background from his previous role with Rail Europe and Eurostar. So he's been a good distribution man, I must say that, Jamal. In 2014, he took over the position of the general manager as Gestor over the company after the company was acquired by Amadeus. He was then appointed as the commercial director of Amadeus France and managed both the roles from 2016 onwards till very recently. So welcome, Jamal. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. And I will go right into question answers and you want to understand this. But my first question to you really, which is very, very tempting, which I really need to ask you is, you have seen different markets. You've just, I know, started with the Middle East market for some time. You've seen the European market. I want to ask you, what's, in your experience, has been the difference between the two markets? What do you think about the Middle East and the European markets? If you can share some thoughts with you, that'd be wonderful.
Yes, hello everyone. Very happy to be with you in this interview and to share some insight. I'm really happy to have moved to this region. I think this region is very, I would say, dynamic. I think to answer your question, there is the main difference. I would say there is more type of travel in this region than in Europe. In Europe, we have indeed corporate travel, business travel. We have the usual leisure travel, I would say. Here we have more. We have a lot of religious travel as well that we have less in Europe. We have all the labor travel. We have more. more I would say diversity in terms of the populations, I think, as well, and the difference as well, Europe is it's more let's say a mature market, and here we have very diverse economies and economies that are more mature, but economies that are still growing fastly, and therefore I think the potential for travel is in this region is huge. We're talking about Middle East, but also Africa. There's huge opportunities for travel in all type of travel, not only the business travel, but also the leisure travel, I would say. And even within the region, I think governments in this region are investing massively into developing their tourism sector, and as well to attract obviously incoming travelers from the region, but as well outside the region, but also to develop domestic tourism. I think the main difference for me is the fact that it's a region which will be, I think, a major contributor to travel and tourism worldwide in the years to come, and I'm really looking forward to that.
My God, you really painted the Middle East a beautiful picture. I really love that. That's really nice of you. But do you think there's any difference between also the way the travel agents behave, the European travel agent and the Middle East travel agent, or are they the same? The way they work the same way?
I would say yes. I would say yes. You have the first impression I have. I've been here now for, let's say, 2 months. The first impression that I have are that travel agencies here. You have all type of travel agencies. Actually, you have let's say regional travel agencies that are acting and operating in different sectors: corporate, leisure, online. It's quite similar to Europe. You have a lot of small brick and mortar travel agencies. So um, the way it works is quite similar. I would say as well. And I think it's really an opportunity for us as a technology provider in Amadeus. Travel agencies in these regions are really savvy about technology. They want to invest in all part of the trip. They want to provide service, and in particular, everything which is related to mobility. I see the thing that I remarked when I arrived here is the usage of applications such as WhatsApp. I mean, you use WhatsApp for everything, and I feel that, and my impression is that in this region, mobility could be more advanced and more utilized than in Europe for travel, and
Okay.
therefore provides more opportunity for technology players such as Amadeus.
Why did Amadeus particularly decide to do this research report on Destination Next, where to next? Any particular thoughts, processes on that?
Well, since the start of COVID-19, there has been a lot of discussion about what traveler will do or will not do, or on how the travel industry will evolve. We felt that travelers and the traveler community needed to be part of this conversation. As you know, we have like a very known application that is widely used, which is called Check My Trip. And over the last decade, we have cultivated a global community of leisure travelers through that application. And therefore, we've decided to ask this community directly for their opinions on how COVID-19 has or has not impacted their confidence in travel. And we know indeed that it has impacted the confidence in travel. And the best way to get that feel is to ask that huge community and to draw a conclusion based on their responses.
Wonderful. I think that's a great, admirable thing which Amadeus is doing. And obviously, like any other part, I think my first question to you on the report would be that what is the most important insight for the travel agencies now as well as in the future? What is the learning for the travel agencies from the report? Can you share some thoughts on that, please?
Yes, in terms of of course, in terms of the takeaways of that study, what we can say is first, travelers have not lost their appetite for leisure travel. On the contrary, they want to go as soon as possible. I think we all know around us people, friends, family, ourselves, uh, even who have postponed trips, and we want to go with the kids, to see our families. So we know that this appetite is there, and it's confirmed by the study. What we want as well, what we see as well, is that they intend travelers to continue using every major mode of travel: air, hotel, rail, and car. Secondly, what they want, and this I think this trend will even further develop in the future, is personalization. They want more personalization. They want more control over their travel experience. So travel agencies will have to take that into account in the future when they build the packages. They will have to ensure that travelers are more consulted to customize the journey, the trip, all across the travel chain, basically. And lastly, uh, travelers clearly want more support from travel agencies. at all stages of their trip, and they are ready to pay for the service. As a figure, what we can share with you is 63% in the region, in the Middle East region, of all those surveyed were open to custom travel experience, either advised by travel agency or designed themselves.
Oh, wonderful. So what do you say that 63%, if I get you correct, are the ones who want to go back to a travel agency and tell them that we want you to design our vacation or the holiday or our travel for us? Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to customize it, maybe, and to pay for it as well. They are ready to pay for the service, given, I believe, all the uncertainties around travel during the COVID-19 period. I think they need even more professional and certified advice and preparation for the vacation, because they want to ensure that all goes smoothly. Because if you have been waiting for that long for a trip, you want to make sure that everything goes fine.
Oh, that's really a welcome change. I must accept that, because if people are not prepared to pay for the services of the travel experts, I think this is really a very welcome change. I think the travel community
Indeed.
is very happy with that. That's something that
Yes.
now moving ahead. Moving my next question obviously is, though you have partially answered it, what do you think so a travel agent, now keeping this in mind that there would be some money which the customer is going to give you, and what do you think so a travel agent must be prepared to do? You did touch about that they need to be safety is one secure, but what all do you think so now the new travel agent should be prepared with? When I say new, I mean to say in this new normal, what all do you think so the travel agents, apart from of course the technology part of it, what do you think so they should be ready with?
For me, what is clear is that travel agencies, for sure, the value will increase to during the restart of the and the recovery. They why? Because travelers needs knowledge, needs guidance. So travel agents should have access to all official and confirmed information about destination travel, restriction and reopening of destinations, of airlines, hotel measures, and other COVID-19 related travel information. And they will need as well to use data inside to find out what traveler wants, what the travel segment they are considering is looking for. For example, in the case of travel for family, or in the case of trips postponed, as we discussed, for various reasons, they really need to have more information about their traveler in order to personalize the trip and take into account everything that the traveler expects to ensure that the travel is a success. They need to listen in order to support the travelers with solution to their concerns. We know that people are needs confidence, needs trust in order to travel again. So they will need to listen to those concerns and problems and provide recommendations to help the traveler get rid of this uncertainty during the booking process and as well during the travel process. Finally, I think they will need to anticipate, and this is quite complicated because things with the COVID, as we've seen, evolve on a daily basis, and therefore travel agencies will need to anticipate, to analyze all possible scenarios and decide how problems will be avoided or best tackled to ensure that the dream vacation goes as planned and travelers have a good time.
Okay, this brings me to one particular question which you just mentioned. So I'm just going a little out of the topic. Would be now what happens because suppose somebody plans a vacation and the travel agent has helped them out and all that, and then suddenly you find that the pandemic has suddenly hit or that place suddenly closed down, as you have a case just now in Europe. Some of the countries have closed down. Then what happens? Then who picks up this whole losses? The travel agent picks it up, the customer will pay for it, or how will this work in future? Because it can happen. This is nobody's fault.
Yes, indeed, you're right. It's what we what we live, unfortunately, every day, and it's very difficult currently to predict anything. We see that the situation is evolving quite quickly. based on a lot of parameters. Restrictions put in place by governments are changing. Even within the same country, we see that. Particularly in Europe, we see that in certain countries, certain cities or regions are closed and others are open. So it's true, it's very difficult. And therefore, I think it's key for travel agent to avoid, because once you are on the trip, it becomes complicated. Okay, but in order to avoid all those things, it's clear that the travel agent need to have access, and we are supporting them for that. By the way, Amadeus, with all the information we have from airlines, hoteliers, all our travel providers, we consolidate all this information and we put that forward to our customers, our travel agents, so they have access to one-stop shop with all this information, and this information is updated on nearly real time, because we have contracts with airlines, with hoteliers, with railways, and we adapt the information as they are published. But indeed, travel agencies will be, for me, I'm saying, a reliable source of information about COVID-19 travel condition or restrictions in order to help travelers make the decision. And this is key, and the travel agent role will be key in terms of consultant, in terms of conciliary, in terms of support, and if and we say if a trip happens and you are stuck, I think what we see is that for sure one key element that existed in the past but will become even more important is travel insurance. Travel insurance, I think, is going to be a key part of the offering of the travel agencies in the future, to ensure that when there is a problem, the customer is covered and we can repatriate the customer, we can provide him alternatives, we can refund, and if there is a medical problems, the traveler is covered in the destinations, and this will give confidence, will give trust, will give reassurance to the traveler. I think when we travel, we need to have some peace of mind. So especially for leisure, when you go with your family, your kids, and it's your lifetime travel, you need to have this confidence, and therefore a way to mitigate that risk is through travel insurance.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I would like to add that 92.4% of those surveyed globally in our study see insurance as a necessity when traveling internationally.
Oh, wonderful. I think I couldn't have agreed more with you. And anyway, now we're really running short of time, but I'd like to ask you my last question, which I really want you to look at. I can't ask you to keep in mind, you know what the study is all about. And I would like you to look into your crystal ball. And if you were to predict, or what you would say, what would be your overall message to the travel industry now? Keeping in mind the study, keeping in mind the environment, what do you think? So the travel industry, the travel agents and others, industry as a whole, what message would you like to give them?
For me, the message is a message of hope and keep the dream on, because we all love discovering new places. We all have milestone trips in our lifetime. We want to as well offer dream to our kids, our closed ones. We want to see our families, our friends. So all those reasons are still there. People are eager to travel, and we know that the situation is complicated for all the travel industry. We are all affected. We are the most impacted industry, whether we are an airline, whether we are a technology provider, whether we are a travel agency, whether we are a hotelier. We are affected and we suffer. But at the end, we love travel, and human beings love travel, and as long as there is life, there is travel. So my message is a message of hope. Nobody knows when travel will pick up and recovery will accelerate, but we know that will happen. This will happen, and I think travel industry will be even bigger in the future, and there'll be more people traveling, and I'm even more optimistic for that region. I see that based on the details and the information and the insight that we have, that this region is recovering faster as soon as restrictions are lifted. Yeah, government, as soon as government restrictions are lifted, this region, I'm talking about the Middle East and Africa, recovery is happening faster, and I'm really, really optimistic about the future of this region in terms of travel. So my message is a message of hope, patience, and solidarity. I think we need solidarity between all the actors of the industry, and it will come back for sure. Now, how fast? That's a big question. Everyone has an answer to that question, but what is sure is, as long as there is life, there is trouble.
Wonderful. I think your confidence level and your message of confidence to the people and optimism is wonderful. I think that's going to be the biggest learning for all of us to take this forward, and that's what we should all believe in and look forward to. Now, before I say goodbye to you, friends, I really want to take this opportunity also now to invite. I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to invite Ernesto Sanchez. He is the managing director of Amadeus Gulf. We will talk to him now. Thank you. But before that, thank you once again, Jamal. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward of interacting more in the future. What's going to be the future like? What are the changes which has happened? What's the future hold for us? We all want to actually see a crystal ball and figure out what's going to be. And well, we can't predict the future, but there are some very, very sharp minds in the travel industry who actually can see the crystal ball and tell us what the future is going to hold for us. So one of the leaders and intellectuals from the Middle East region we have today is a very special guest, and his name is Ernesto Sanchez, is the managing director of the Amadeus Gulf. In his 14 years at Amadeus, Ernesto held different roles in the organization, including regional director for marketing management in Asia Pacific, regional market manager for Southern Europe, and marketing manager for Middle East and Africa. Today, of course, he's the managing director of Amadeus Gulf. He's a Spanish citizen. Ernesto holds an Executive International Masters in Business Administration by ESCP, Europe, and is a Bachelor in Telecommunication Engineering. Ernesto, it's a pleasure to have you today with us, and we are really hoping to you to give us and tell us what's the future going to be like. We're not holding you to your predictions, but we would love to understand minds like yours, what do they think so? So to begin with, I would like to really ask you my first question, which everybody wants to know, is what's been the learning for this pandemic? What should the travel agencies now keep in mind going forward? You have dealt with most of them. You have the controls, the buttons, or control the buttons of everything. So what do you think about it?
I think that there have been many learnings as a result of this pandemic, and always we had to take a look to the bright side in difficult times. The same way that, for example, most of the significant advances in aviation were done as a result of the world wars. Any bad times at the end have a reverse side, which is a bright one, right? So in this case, the pandemic obviously brought many bad things, but also some good things. One of the things that we have all learned is that we cannot take it for granted that growth is always going to be there. So it's actually probably moving forward going to be more like some kind of roller coaster in which the companies and all the different players in the travel industry have to accommodate to the situation, because maybe in the near future, probably we will experience cases in which there will be a significant and accelerated growth, but other cases in which there could be a clear, not only the acceleration of the growth, but even a decline, okay, which happened in the last months. Also, from Amadeus' point of view, we tend to look at this more on all the opportunities that we have ahead of us rather than all the bad things. And I think that also the travelers have changed, all the travel industry has changed. We are taking a look into that with this study, with this research that we just released. And well, we are here to share with all the different players in the travel industry, which are the opportunities ahead, which we believe are many. And we take a look into 2021 as a year of growth, which is the most important key takeaway for the time being.
Thanks very much. But before I go to the survey part of it, if I were to hold you back for one second, I'm going to ask you, what do you think so is going to be 2021 like? What is your forecast? What do you think so? Look into your crystal ball and tell us what do you think so what will really happen?
Well, the crystal ball right now is not as clear as it was in the past. Obviously, it's a difficult one. It's difficult to come with a forecast for a year in which there are so many dependencies. What we know for sure is going to be a year of growth compared with the current year, and I think all the players in the travel industry are really getting ready for that. And even IATA, whenever they are projecting the forecast, they are taking many variables into consideration. But obviously, it's going to be a year of recovery. And the speed of the recovery is going to be dependent on many things, including not obviously the rollout of a potential vaccine, but also the regulations of all the different governments. Because at the end, one of the things that we have found out in this study is that the travelers are really eager to go travel again. There is a clear appetite to go back to all the different destinations. And we are sure that as soon as the situation improves, they will be traveling.
I will wish luck, and I hope your words come true. I know everybody is looking for traveling, so we also. Friends, before I move ahead, I want to share with you something that recently, I'm not sure how many of you know about it, but recently Amadeus released a research report to understand what the leisure traveler wants in this COVID-19 world. So it's really understanding what they want. And Ernesto, I would like to ask you some questions based on your study, which you did. And so my first question, which is very obvious, would be, what does your finding actually show when it comes to when can we expect a full recovery? Because you've been talking to the world travelers. So what do you think? What's your finding of that?
So the research actually reveals how the different travelers feel at a specific point of time. So obviously, this research is an indication, is giving us some advice and some trends on what's happening. But obviously, the attitude of the travelers is really subject to a variety of forces. And those forces are obviously random in some cases. So we are talking about the government regulations. Even when everybody thought at the beginning of the recovery that the travelers would be ready to jump into a plane or a train or a car, the governments are putting like very strict restrictions, and those restrictions are still there. So obviously that's going to be a major force that we need to take into consideration. Also quarantines and some other things that are going to impact obviously the recovery and how we will take a look into 2021. I think this is very important because we need to get used to the idea of having this dynamic forecast. So what we mean by that? We mean by that we can take a look into the situation right now, but the situation can be very different in 1 or 2 months, even if the most important thing is that the trends are there. So going back to your question, when to expect a full recovery? Well, we believe that there's going to be a strong growth next year, and this is going to be really the beginning of the full recovery of the travel industry.
Okay, so the start will be in 2021. Wonderful. Now, one thing which actually I really want to ask you, because in your report, which I remember mentioning, was that you have says that the traveler now places a higher premium on support and problem solving. What does this mean? Sorry, it baffled me a little bit. So what did you mean by when it's a higher premium on support and problem?
I think most of the travelers don't realize the value of something, of a premium service, till they encounter a difficulty or an issue whenever they are traveling. So I would say that most of the travelers in the past, they were expecting a smooth trip. The disruptions that the travelers used to experience in the past were kind of limited if we compare it to the extent of the current situation in the industry. We were talking about weather disruptions or about the strikes or wars or unrest in some countries. In those cases, there was already a value on those premium services and support, but now that became more relevant than ever. because it's no longer about the traveler just booking things by themselves, but really when they go to a travel agency, they see a real added value on all the different agents as an advisor and as someone who is taking basically care of all the different stages of the trips and who is going to manage for them all the difficulties or all the issues that they might face. So in those cases, those agents in the travel industries, which are now that they are becoming or they are converting into advisors, are tracking down different viable options. Okay, we are talking about what happens if the flight is canceled, or we're talking about what happens if suddenly new government restrictions are coming into force. What happens if you have lost your luggage because of all of this, or you are stuck in a place and you need to find a hotel or a place in which you can safely go for dinner or your lunch alone or with your family. So if you take a look to all of these things together, at the end, that premium service that now the travel agencies can offer is really adding a lot of value. And we believe that is going to be something very unique moving forward, and it's going to help differentiate all the different travel agencies.
So this is going to be a new normal, which you're talking about, and that's where everybody needs
Absolutely.
to be. You will be there to help everybody. So that's okay. But this brings me to the most pertinent question: is that you work with agencies, you're working with travel agencies and all that. But now my point is, how will you help the travel agencies to understand this findings which you have come up with? How will you help them grow their business? Because I think the travel agents are the ones who really got the wrong end of the stick at the moment. So what are your plans? How are you going to use this to help them?
Okay, so the idea of this report was for us to understand which are the dynamics moving forward in the post-pandemic times or during the pandemic times. And the report is not only for Amadeus. We share the findings of this report with all the different players in the travel industry, because we believe that we have identified clear opportunities, and we want to make sure that they basically adapt their portfolio of solutions and services to those opportunities to be successful in the future. So understanding the hearts and the minds is essential. I mean, when I say understanding the hearts and the minds, obviously, of the travelers, it's essential to understand or to meet their needs. And as I was saying before, whenever you share these findings, we can help our customers to build a proper strategy. For example, two clear recommendations that are coming from this research are: the first one is that all the different players in the travel industry need to have a more dynamic and diverse offering. And what I mean by that is that probably now they need to begin thinking about how they can offer all the travelers immersion experiences or services which are clearly addressing the health and safety needs, which are very different in these times than they used to be in the past. Another opportunity as well is how they can transform their systems and channels so that at the end they provide a holistic experience to all the different travelers, basically offering the right data and content through any channel. Because at the end, what's happening as of today is that irrespective if it's an airline or a travel agency, in some cases the experience that you get as a traveler using a channel like a chatbot is very different than if you do a booking online without using the chatbot, or if you call a representative, or you go and step in a travel agency. So we believe that all the different players in the travel industry need to be more consistent in the way that they offer this experience to all the different travelers. And these two opportunities are just probably the tip of the iceberg, because the more we deep dive, the more we understand the dynamics of the near future, the more opportunities probably lie ahead of us.
So what indirectly, if I understand, is that you're telling everybody that watch your customer very carefully. He is the one who needs to really be pampered and looked after, and we need to do that. Fair enough. I think that's a very, very valid point. But this brings me to my obvious question, which is going to be your findings. Well, they are global findings, but what about the Middle East, for the Gulf region? What do you think so were some interesting observations which you would like to specify and talk to us about what is happening in the Middle East and what the reactions of people were? And what do you think so would be the characteristics and the views for the leisure travelers going forward from this region, not globally, especially in the Gulf region?
Well, one of the key features of Middle East is probably one of the regions in the world in which you have more avid travelers. What I mean by this is, like, it's a region in which the people travel a lot for different reasons. I mean, it could be business travel, could be leisure. BFR is very important as well, visiting friends and relatives. But they really like those experiences about the traveling, the whole traveling concept. So obviously that is just the foundation of some of the things that we have seen in the as a result of the research. The first one is that the travelers still want and have the means to get out there. Actually, roughly 3/4 of the travelers want to travel as soon as the restrictions are lifted. So they are really eager to travel. They are waiting for those restrictions to be lifted, so that as soon as they are lifted, they will travel. They will travel home, or they will travel on holidays. And actually, 82% of them want to go on international travel. In most of the cases, long distance, and 55% of them say that they have the same budget or even a higher budget than they used to have before. So still their purchase power has been kind of preserved, and they are eager to spend that traveling in the near future. Another thing very important, another finding, is that planning, there is a lot of diversity on planning times. What I mean by that? People used to, in the past, plan ahead of time their trips. It's not the case any longer. Well, it still is the case, but the pattern has somehow changed as well. And the reason for that is very clear. I mean, there is such an uncertainty going on that obviously now up to 1/3 of the travelers are still keeping their planning of the trips 1 to 3 months in advance, but 1/3 of them as well, they do it within just 30 days, because they know that they may have to change overnight their plans. So obviously that's an important factor that we need to take into consideration. Another thing as well is that another finding is that details increasingly matter. And what we mean by that is that 84% of the people we surveyed indicated that the COVID information is extremely important, is key. At the end, in the current times, if they don't get this information clearly from the travel agency, from the airline, or from all the different players which are in the industry, that will not give them like a peace of mind in order to move forward with their trips. And last but not least, most of the travelers believe as well that airports and airlines play a key role in safety. And up to the point that 95% of the respondents said that the prevention of COVID, specifically on airports and airlines, is extremely important whenever they are planning their trips. So as you can see, there are plenty of findings that we believe are extremely important for all the different players in the travel industry, and can give an idea of different opportunities that are out there.
But this is amazing. I think this is your new normal, which you're going to be for future, because if 84% of the respondents said that they want this information about COVID from the travel agent and they want it updated for their peace of mind, I think that's going to be very, very important for the travel agents to be on the button all the time to understand what's basically happening on that. And but the interesting fact which you mentioned was that 82% of the people, you said, they're all ready to travel when the restrictions open.
They are.
Amazing.
Yeah, you think about that. I think it's part of the human behavior as well. When you have been in a lockdown for such a long period of time, something that people was not used to that at all in the past. So the first thing that you want to do, especially, you want to go out there. You want to go back to the normality, right? To what you used to have before. So I think that they are eager. We are all eager. It's just a question of time, and as soon as the restrictions are lifted, and we are pretty confident that basically they will be traveling very, very soon.
And you said 50% of them are ready to got the same budgets, so they haven't decreased anything. So that means they will travel for sure. If the budgets are the same and they're keen to travel, that means it's a matter of time when the moment you have a vaccine, they're all ready to travel. Would that be right?
Yeah, that can be right. At least that's one of the findings of the study. You also have to take into consideration that obviously, unfortunately, there has been many jobs have been lost because of the current circumstances. But then on top of that, the people who preserved their jobs, probably they saved more money than in the past, because they were not allowed to travel, they were in lockdown. So all that people who have been saving that money, they are still preserving their purchase power, and they are ready to go out there.
I agree. Couldn't have agreed more with you. And I really want to take this opportunity to say thank you. I think this is a major eye opener for the whole travel industry. Your research, which report which has come out, I think that will maybe indirectly has forecasted the new normal and the way the future is going to be. I think every travel agent should read it carefully and understand that very, very carefully, the way forward is going to be. And I really want to take a big thank you to you for taking your time out today and actually briefing us. And Ernesto, this is going to be a major thing for the industry to understand and know. And thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to talk like this more often. Thank you so much.